Well, welcome. I'm Phil Scarpelli, President and CEO of Family Partnerships in Central Florida, and we're on our 9th episode of doing podcasting with all of the people that bring such meaning to what we call a system of care. A system of care to work with, children and youth who have gone through adverse life experiences, and here we are. Some of us may say we've been called by God, right, to step into their lives in an interim state we call foster care, and oftentimes it's the very families that foster kids that end up adopting them. So when we thought about our guests today, Thomas and Donna, we thought about people who are just so real and authentic about that calling. And I met you all, I think for the first time, it was at the adoption event.
Yes.
I don't know if I met you before then.
I don't think so.
Yeah, so it was a true honor that day. We had the judge present, we had the community present, and then there you were with, let me think now, an 8 bunch of young people that were all dressed in a certain fashion. So I want you to describe that. But first, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and lady first if you like, and introduce yourself and how you got into this.
Well, originally I guess it started with Isaiah. We had a friend that was over at my house, and she asked if we knew anybody that wanted to adopt. And I said, we will. And she said, shouldn't you talk to your husband about it first? And I was like, well, we've already prayed about it, but I'll talk to him anyway. And of course he said, of course, because we had been praying about it for a couple of years at that point. And so that is really what got the ball rolling. We ended up meeting the family. The grandmother was in line, I think, to adopt him. And she was in her 70s, and she knew she wasn't going to be around long enough to raise him all the way. And the judge had told her that he would let her pick a family. And so that's kind of how that happened. And so the rest is kind of history. Every child that we've adopted since then has kind of happened like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name's Thomas, but I guess Thomas and Donna, you would get that I'm the Thomas part of the Thomas and Donna. Yeah, and I'm a pastor at a church, and then I'm a licensed counselor as well in Osceola County there. And yeah, that started just like Donna said, and then we've kind of got phases of our family. Our first 3 are biological, and then Isaiah came, and that was our 4th child, and we weren't sure if that was going to be it or not. We just said, hey, we're not going to go to other countries to adopt. We're not going to go. We want to impact the community that we're in. This is where we live, and so we want to impact where we live. And so we had another friend reach out after we had adopted Isaiah, and said, "Hey, I've got a worker they're in the hospital up at Winnie Palmer. The state's taken their kid away based off of drug use by the bio mom. Do you know anybody that would be willing to foster?" Actually, he said, "Could we put it on our church's Facebook page to see if anybody?" I said, "I don't think we can. I don't think we can quite do that. It might not be
Creative.
Yeah, it was creative. But I knew our hearts, and so I just said, "Let me call you right back." And so I called down and said, "Hey, there's this little girl that's in the hospital. She's just born, and let's jump into fostering." So we did. I'd already done foster classes, and so we said, let's do it. And so we reached out to him and said, hey, we've got a solution here for you. Work through all the red tape that it takes to get there. But then we took in Laura Lee, who is 9 now. And then we were just, we're running back and forth. We're doing hey, take her to go meet the family, go see mom and dad. And half the time, with drugs involved, mom and dad were struggling. So half the time they show up, half the time they don't show up, those kind of things. Those visits were pretty hard for Donna. She couldn't do those real well. That wasn't her favorite thing. Just hard to watch, to watch the struggle there for the parents. And so I got to do a lot of those and enjoyed it, really. It was a good time. We often got to play at the park.
Yeah, right. I have to go back to when you began sharing. We talked about this way early on before the first individual came up to us and said, have you thought about? So what does it mean to care for children as a couple?
You have to be ready for a lot of curveballs because you never know from one day to the other really what's going to come. Just because even though I think a lot of people have a misconception that if you get them from birth that they're not going to have trauma,
Hmm.
and they're not going to have any of the things that come along with, heavy trauma, I guess you could call it. But they still have their stuff, even though we got them all out of the hospital, except for Isaiah. Isaiah's the only one we didn't. And so I think you have to be ready for those kind of things. Together, it's kind of, God's been gracious to us in that if I have a bad day, he's great. And if he's having a bad day, I'm doing okay. But just, we have to talk a lot, lots of communication, and realizing that their stuff comes from their trauma. It's not a personal thing. It's not a personal attack against me or a personal attack against him. It's just stuff inside that they don't even understand.
Yeah.
So trying to work through that every day, depending on what is coming.
Something when I look at you two, from the moment we said hello, when you speak, you look at each other. I think it's so adorable in one way. In another way, they do speak as one voice. And I think about how you have already delivered a message about your why and what children need. You're a pastor and you're a clinician. I'm a strong man of faith, and I'm a clinician as well. And I think it's a blessing that talent and skills of those backgrounds come into a place where children with adverse childhood experiences are a priority. And you talked about raising kids, and what you spoke of early was very much about the universality, about what do all children need. And then you guys take it to the next level, and you're taking kids from early stages, and you're so right. Who are we to judge? Where does trauma begin?
Mm-hmm.
How is it received, and what's its impact? Being a pastor, being a clinician, you must have tremendous insights, not only about the children, maybe even the system and the players within the system. Can you share some of your perspective?
Sure, I would love to. From the interesting part in our story is when we got the call about Laura Lee, I was in the middle of doing my master's degree for my clinical health, for my counseling. Sorry, the word wasn't coming. 8 kids will do that sometimes.
Yes, it will.
Right in the middle of finishing up my degree for that. And so what we have said to all of our kids, we've apologized to the older ones because we learned so much through the counseling degree, to then what does that mean to help children who have been through adverse experiences within their life at such young ages, right? When you are in the womb and you're used to hearing your bio moms and dad's voices, and then you come out of the womb and you're ripped away from that, it impacts you deeply. And so we've gotten to see that firsthand. And so it helps it's not, when our older kids would do something, we would take that stuff fairly personally, like, why are you lying to us? Why are you hiding food? Why are you doing these things? Where now we know much more about why a child would be hiding food under their bed, or hiding, candy under their pillow, or, the thing, or they're going to lie immediately first thing when you say, hey, what's going on with this? And they're just going to immediately lie to protect themselves because they're fearful of, oh goodness, what's going to happen. That happens very early on, their reactions to that. And I think that helps us to just, we've apologized to the older kids saying, hey, sorry, we didn't know what we didn't know. And now we know what we do know. So it makes it very different. I think when you look at the whole system, there are so many kids that need help. I could, from my spot, say, hey, these are things that I don't love about the system, because I think all of us could say, hey, there's things we don't love about it. It's not a perfect system, far from a perfect system, but it's the system we have. Yeah. And what we've learned is we just have to play within the system that we have. It's just, like I think we said early before we even got on camera that, hey, I wanted a baseball team at some point for a number of kids, and we're, I'm telling the Lord now, we're good. It's good. We don't need the 9th one. I'll play the 9th position. It's good. But if you play baseball, you have to learn to play in the system that you're in. You have to learn to play by the rules that are even if you don't like them, even if you don't love everything about it. And so there are lots of things that all of us could say, hey, this needs to be fixed in the system, or that needs to happen. But the reality is that these are kids. These are lives. They're not numbers. It's not just a system. These are, precious kids that need a place. And I think we said in that thing that you were at when we did the adoption, we're not special. I think a lot of people look and say, how in the world do you do that? She's special. uh, don't miss that. But we're not superheroes. We're not any of those things. We're just regular people who know how to put one foot in front of the other. We're not rescuing kids. They've done more rescuing of us than we've done of them. They've meant more to us than we have. It's probably similar for both of it, but we're not their savior. They have done more for us than we've ever done for any of our kids. They've really changed our lives.
That's beautiful. I mentor to this day. I've been in this industry 42 years. I'm 64 now. And to this day, I'm mentoring kids that are now adults. Some who are soon to be parents and stuff like that. And they'll always say, thank you, right? And I have to stop them. I don't want to hear any more thank you. I want to stop. Stop. Thank you. What they've done to our lives is nothing shy than remarkable. And you guys get that. And I think the way I don't know if people could see the moment where you say to the older ones, I apologize from what I'm learning now later in life. And, to be vulnerable like that, you guys must exercise the highest level of emotional intelligence in your family and not even realize it. And yet that is, if there's any magic in all this journey, it really has to do with empathy. And you get that. I mean, I almost hear you empathizing with one another. I forget what you said, like you're not perfect or something like that. But wait a minute, she's the queen of this stuff. Well, I'm sure she feels the same way about you. I guarantee you that. So tell us more about the family. And maybe let's talk about the jerseys and the baseball shirt. And where did all that come from?
That came from before we got married, he said he wanted a baseball team. And so I was like, well, I'll have a couple, but then we can adopt the rest. He's like, okay. So that's kind of how that started. And then when I gave birth to Paige, she's our second biological daughter, I ended up having heart failure 3 days later. And the doctors didn't give me a great statistic that I was going to make it. So and then they told us that we couldn't have any more children. And so that to me was devastating. That was about 1.5 years after we were married. And I was questioning why God would let me marry him, because I think he's wonderful and he deserved better, all the things that Satan tries to throw in your head. And so that was kind of my battle with that. And then we knew that we wanted adoption to be part of our story. I don't think he shared yet, but his family had foster kids in his home growing up too. So he knew that he wanted that to be, we just didn't know how much of a part it was going to be, I don't think. But so when we heard about Isaiah and that started happening, of course we thought, okay, that's it. And then Lorelei came and we thought that she was it. We've spoiled all of them because we always thought that was the last one. we rocked them all to sleep at night. Like, it's been kind of funny. People are like, you still rock your kids to sleep? We're like, well, they were supposed to be the last one. And then that one was supposed to be the last one. So they've all kind of gotten spoiled a little bit with things like that. But the baseball team just kind of started because we kept adding, kids just kept showing up.
So our second adoption, that's when we had the 2 girls, Lorelei and Milana. And that's when
they're biological sisters.
Yeah, they're biological siblings. And that's when she got the idea of doing the baseball shirts. And we had one for everybody. And each one was numbered a number, and all the way down to, I think we were 1, 2, and then, right. And then numbered the kids all the way down to the 6th kid was number 8 that year, I think, right? Or did you?
No, we were double zeros.
Oh, we were double zeros.
Yeah. Established in the year that we got married.
Right.
And then they were numbered.
And then they were all numbered. And then the next adoption was, so every time those girls, their biological sibling is born, the state is calling us saying, hey, we've got another child. What do you want to do? And that was 6 years later. We were really surprised at Renlick switching out after Milana. We were done, and they called us in November and said, hey, we
have an hour.
You got about an hour to decide. She's got to go somewhere quickly. Let us call you right back. Get off the phone and talk a little bit, call a couple of our friends and mentors and people in our life, family. And we got mixed reviews. We had people, we had people that said, you guys are too busy.
Yeah, you've already got it.
Yeah. But we just felt it was the right thing. And so then when we got Brinley, we did different shirts. And that my oldest daughter then was married at that point. So her husband, my oldest daughter's number one, he gets 1.5. Because he's the number in between 1 and 2 there, so he gets 1.5.
He was drafted.
And he was drafted.
drafted
He had
on his
drafted on his shirt. And so that's where the shirts came from. And then you got to see when we had all 8 kids there with all their numbers, and pretty fun stuff.
Do you mind if we can talk a little bit about maybe mythology with regards to folks who don't know what fostering is all about, have bio kids, and wonder, should I bring these children who've had experiences that my kids might not understand into our home? Did you have that concern? Did you have situations where you felt like, yeah, we need to prepare or discuss or deal with that? And how did it turn out?
I think so. Donna just touched on shortly that I grew up in a home where we did foster care. Most of the kids who came into my home were kids who were taken out of their home based on what the kid did, not really what the parents did. They had all gotten in some sort of trouble. I think grand theft auto, manslaughter, like lots of different things. And they would come in, and we'd have 4 to 6 kids staying with us at any given time. And our house was kind of the last house that they would come to then be able to go back to their home. So this was, hey, can they adapt to the regular world after they've been out of, they were in some form of, maybe a lockdown unit or whatever it was, and they would come to us. And so I got to see a lot of the adverse things that could happen. We don't have enough time to go into all those stories of the things that happened. But I think that gave me a pretty good perspective of what we were walking into. Of course, all of our kids were taken away based on what their parents had done, what the kids had done. And I think there's a lot of false perception that they'll, could they influence our kids in a bad way? Could they harm our kids? Could they? Now, some of those things can happen. We don't want to be foolish to think they can't happen. One is, as we brought kids in, they were fairly young compared to our bio kids, and so there wasn't too much age difference. They weren't older than our kids, and so I think that
birth order the same.
Tried to keep birth order
just too younger.
So that the kids knew, hey, this is where I was, and somebody didn't come in older than me. It impacts the way that I'm in this home, and so then we just, you pay attention, you watch, and you love the kids where they are. And I think one of the big things, even in our entire family, that our older kids, our bio kids, got is they know how to love hard. It's hard, and kids are screaming and throwing things and smashing windows and breaking. They know this stuff can happen, and I think we just taught them these are the things you want to do in those moments. And they have, our kids, all of our kids have been amazing in that. Our older kids all have jumped in. Before we take a new child, all of our kids get a say on whether we're going to do that or not. We don't just make that decision in and of ourselves, but they are part of the decision. And so on this last one, though, they did finally confess to us, well, how do you expect us to say no, Dad? It's like, okay, fair enough. But you do still get a say. So
They're biological.
they're biological. They're related to us already. And so they're coming.
So hands on the buzzer. True or false? Did your bio kids grow and mature maybe a little faster than you might have thought otherwise, bringing other children into this home and into this family? Did it change or influence their degree of empathy, their insights to behavior?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. Easy to say true to that.
It's so ironic because I've talked to many prospective families, many existing foster families and adoptive families, and that is a big discussion. People say early on is like, we didn't know what we were going to get into, we didn't know what the impact was. And in fact, and I want viewers and listeners to know that you'll be pleasantly surprised what the impact will be on our bio children. It's oftentimes a boost in a maturational path, a boost in understanding empathy. Why might they behave that way, right? When you think of trauma-informed and trauma-responsive, are you familiar with the language today?
For sure, yes.
What's the difference in your home about seeing trauma-informed evidence and then trauma-responsive evidence?
Yeah, I think watch even our older kids 10 years ago, if we would have went to the grocery store and there's a kid losing their mind in the middle of the grocery store, our kids would have looked at us and said, Dad, what's wrong with those parents? Why aren't they handling that?
Right.
Right? Like they would have just been like, what's wrong? Why aren't they handling that? Where now I think all of us have changed in the sense that one, we have no clue what that child has been through and why they're reacting the way they are. And so I think all of our kids are much more, whether they would use the language trauma informed, but they just understand that trauma impacts and it's going to outwork in different ways. And you can't just react to it. Actually, if you react to it, we're gonna escalate trauma instead of slowing down and say, how do I want to respond to this? And I think all of our kids, and I would say both of us, have grown greatly in this is how we want to respond in those moments and not be reactive.
So this journey, as you've grown,
Oh,
right? You're raising
tremendous.
kids and more kids and even more kids. It's very moving. I really appreciate what you're sharing because the message really in our journey together as a system responding to these kids who need us is the realization that anybody can do this. But I think you put some of the formula together for people to think about, particularly caregivers coming together, thinking about are we balanced and ready, right? And even if it's not perfect, what's perfect, right? And when is it perfect, right? But the fact that you guys really just moved me because you even remind me my own son. I got 3 kids in their 30s, and my own son and his fiance right now behave just the way you behave. They look at each other, they're holding each other's hands, and they're speaking from the heart that is shared. And I think, oh my God, they're going to be great parents too, just like you guys are. This fostering journey, it's a powerful journey, an impactful one. Imagine the impact 100 loving homes could make. 100 hearts, 100 foster homes, 100 opportunities for love. With your yes, a child finds safety. With your heart, a child finds home. Strengthen our community. We urgently need 100 families to say yes, giving hope to a foster child. Scan the QR code to get started. So we're back. I'm here with the Todd family, and you guys continue to inspire me, and I'm sure you're doing the same for our audience. Let's ask that, the proverbial question, what's your why? And what's your why? And I'll put a sub part in this. What's your why and how do you sustain it?
My why started when I was a kid. I worked with a mission for homeless people. My mother worked there for 40 years, and I did summer camps with the kids there. So we would pick up from different shelters in town and take them to do the things that they don't ever get to do. And so that's kind of where my heart for it started, not knowing what God was going to do with it later. But then, when you read, we're Christians, when you read in the Bible, it talks about taking care of the widows and the orphans. Mm-hmm. And that verse just penetrated. Like that's one of the things you're specifically called to do. And luckily I married somebody who felt the same way. And so we kind of jumped in it together. But that is definitely our why. If there wasn't a purpose behind it, knowing that that's what God's called us to do, the hard days would be easy to walk away from. It would be easy to just quit and give up. And I think a lot of people do that, not understanding what their why is.
So your journey from beginning, it's many years now has passed. And you've always had your why, and then we all agree that the journey is has its ups and its downs, stuff like that. What's changed from how you rebound from the tough moments then to the tough moments today? Is it different? Or do you have different?
It is. I think in the beginning, the tough days I would take more personally, just because I think that's what moms do. You go to bed every night wondering if you did enough or how bad did I mess somebody up today? But I think the more I've gotten into it and the more I have tried to love the kids where they are, it's just taught me that that's how God loves me. Like I can make whatever mistakes and he's always there to forgive and to start new the next day. And so that's what I try to do with the kids, try to leave yesterday in the past and new mercies for today. But without the Lord, I don't think I would be able to do that. I think it's very hard to do that away from knowing that's what he's called me to do as a mom.
Yeah.
Like that's my purpose in life.
Phil, you'd said earlier just the sub part of that question, how do we sustain it? I think it's just an excellent question, especially for people who would say, hey, I may want to do this in the future. I think that sustainability is key. Uh, the kids deserve they deserve, consistency. We've known people personally who have adopted and didn't think through the costs of what it would cost them, and then they like give their kids back or something. It doesn't even compute in my head, and then what that does to a child. And so the sustainability part is key. And I think we have one, our faith helps sustain us, and then our community. We would not be here today with our kids where we are without the people in our lives that have said, hey, we'll go, you two take a weekend away, go get away, we'll take care of the kids, we got it handled. They pass our kids around between 2 or 3 different families because there's a few of them, and they take care of that. And then I think each other, we often will check in first thing in the morning. I'm heading off to do some counseling or whatever I'm doing, kiss her and say, hey, you've got this today, because she's going to be running kids around everywhere. But then somewhere, an hour or two later, I'm going to send her a text, or she's going to send me a text. Just how's it going? That's the just checking it. What's going on and how's it going? And then second half of the day, the same kind of idea. The other one will send the text and say, how's it going? What can I do for you? We have to be together in this, and work together in it. And that's I think those are the Lord, our community, and then each other has sustained us in this.
Has for you as well, your response to coping through challenges changed in the early days to where you are now?
Sure. Now I run a lot.
You mean physically?
Physically running. Yeah.
I'm out of here.
He has a shirt that says "Running is my therapy."
I do have a shirt that says that. That all joking aside, I think that's an excellent question. Early on, I think it was, again, I think I told you we had to apologize to our older kids of, hey, sorry, because we just didn't have a clue. We didn't know what we were doing. I really didn't know. And now I think we know better. And so we're raising kids. We're not, I have a friend who used to say, hey, I'm not raising grass, so I don't care if my kids make a mess of my grass. I'm not raising grass, I'm raising kids. We're not worried about what our house looks like anymore. If you come to our house tomorrow and it's destroyed, we're just okay. We're okay. I think we have learned to be okay, which then allows our kids to feel security, and mom and dad are okay. Whatever gets thrown our way. We've had police show up at the door like, hey, this is happening here. They're, oh, okay, come on, let's figure it out. Whatever it is, we're okay. And I think that's been one of our things is we're fine. We're going to get through it. It may be hard, but we can see that it's not the end of the world. And so we kind of hold it all pretty open-handed and try to love our kids in that same kind of manner.
That's nice. You want to share some of the highs and the lows? Things that you've celebrated, things that have challenged you, and anything in between?
I think one of the lows that stands out in my mind was Isaiah's grandmother. She stayed part of his life even after we adopted him. She's a sweet lady. She ended up becoming a believer and came to church every Sunday with us and things like that. And his biological mother passed away from a drug overdose. And we didn't tell him right off the bat because we didn't think he was ready to hear it. He was young to hear that. But then when his grandmother passed away, we knew he was going to be around family that would know his mother. And so he had to find out both of them at the same time. And that was a really hard day. He doesn't emote a lot. He holds everything very tightly. And so to watch him react to that was really hard for me. I think that was one of the lowest.
Yeah, that was probably one. Yeah. And now you look back and you say, hey, would we have handled that a little bit differently? Yeah. He has a biological sibling that is with a different family, and they weren't ready to tell him, and so that's part of why we held back on telling Isaiah too. It was like, we'll wait, and then grandma dies, who's been part of our family. She was grandma to all of our
Christmases,
kids.
Thanksgiving.
She
I mean,
yeah,
she did all the things with us.
so that was hard. I think some highs, you think of each adoption event, each one of them was a high. I think one of the things we talk about is, the line in there that the judge says, hey, this child is now as if this child was born to you with all the rights and privileges that a child born to you would have. That's just extremely powerful to our hearts. Like that, just that part of the whole ceremony is just very powerful. And I think for both of us, those are high moments there where it's just like, wow, like that's the gospel. Just explained in adoption terms. And then to watch the kids, the things that they're doing. Lorelei and Milana, Milana was 4 pounds, like she could fit in my hands like this. Those little snot suckers, her little head was about the same size of a little bit bigger than a snot sucker. I don't know, that's not a technical name for those, but that's what we call them in our house. To see, just to hold her. I remember the first time we go to the hospital and she's in the NICU and they're like, okay, feed her. And trying to feed this little thing. And our smallest birth child was 9 pounds, 3 ounces. So to hold this little 4-pound thing, it was like, what do you even do? And so I looked at her and I'm like, how do you burp her?
And the nurses thought we were crazy.
Well, and she goes, well, let me go. Yeah, she goes, let me go find a nurse. And she found one. How many kids do you guys have? This is our 6th one. Oh, here.
But none of them were this.
And she just burped. It was like, oh, okay. So those, I think the highs are the regular family moments. And then watching Lorelei is phenomenal artist, phenomenal. Like she just learned to play the piano by herself at probably 6 years old. Just start, and to see those things come out of our kids as they're growing up and seeing their personalities and who they are, that it's just fun. It's just fun. And so I think those are watching Isaiah hit a home run, hitting the ball out of the park, at 10 years old or whatever. It's just like, wow, this is, I never did that as a kid. So it's wonderful to see them. So to see their accomplishments and what they've done. And then overall family things, watching our older kids. I think a great high for both of us is watching our older kids caring for the younger ones. Like one day, our boys, Isaiah and Cross, who's right above him, they're going to make good husbands because they already know how to change diapers. They've had to take care of babies, and they have to make dinner, and they have to. So to watch our kids just care for all of the younger kids, to see that, like they're siblings. They would never make a difference between adopted children or birthed ones. Like none of our kids would make any separation in that. Though all the younger ones know that they're adopted. It's not like that's hidden. Yeah. We talk about it. It's part of our normal conversation. But all of them would say, that's my brother, that's my sister. There's no, qualifier to it.
Right.
They just see it that way.
Do I dare ask you one final question? And that is, do you ever talk and or reflect on where they would be if it weren't for you both today?
Yeah, that's hard. I think Mother's Day, that's funny because it's coming up. Mother's Day always hits me really hard for them because I know what their biological mothers have missed. I've seen just so many joyful moments from them and the prayers that they've prayed. They pray for their biological parents. And so just knowing all the little things that they've missed along the way, though, walking for the first time and all going to school for the first time and those things like that. So it's knowing that they could be living in a tent somewhere in the woods, just where one of them is right now. It's crazy to think where they could be.
Remember when we first got Laura Lee, the bio parents had some stuff for her, and they said, "Hey, why don't you take that stuff so you guys can have some things that because we didn't have baby stuff at that point." And the guy who introduced me to the family said, "Hey, they need help." He went with me, and we went to their home that they lived in. And I think I was just tearing up there. And I just saw him, that guy here a couple of weeks ago, not the bio dad, but the friend who introduced us. And he often points out that very question. Just think of where they would be right now if they weren't in your home. And it's likely...
Big responsibility.
Yeah, big responsibility. And likely if they were with bio parents, I don't know where they would be. If not, the state probably would have intervened somewhere else along the way. and they'd be bouncing around foster care homes. And so we get the privilege and the honor. As Donna said, we get to see the things that sadly their bio parents miss out on, because it really is amazing. They're
And they'd
amazing
probably all be
kids.
separated too.
They would probably all be separated.
I want to thank you, Donna and Thomas, the Todd family. My goodness. You moved us. And I think you left the final message that I couldn't have said any better. Thank you all. If you're interested in thinking about fostering and adopting, go to familypartnerships.org, won't you?